What is going on, everyone, and welcome to r/EntitledParents. Now, as you probably know, the popularity of Pokemon in the past few weeks has gone absolutely crazy. So when I saw today's first story, I thought I had to bring it to you guys. Entitled Parent tries to arrest me over a Pokemon trade. For a bit of backstory, I was big into the Pokemon competitive scene about 7 years ago. I also dedicated a lot of time into catching and breeding shiny Pokemon, and as of late, I decided to do some trades, mostly to get stuff I don't have or haven't gotten around to breeding. So about 2 weeks ago, I got on a site and asked for a Zekrom, and offered a variety of legendary Pokemon for the trade. The trade went smoothly, but I forgot to mark the post as completed. Cue today, and a guy messages me asking if I would trade him a Necrozma for his Zekrom. I explained that the post is rather old and that I no longer have a need for a Zekrom, but I agreed to hear his offer. In the end, I thanked the dude for his time and we did not trade. Not 5 minutes later, an entitled parent messages me asking for the same trade, Zekrom Necrozma. I once again explained the situation and apologise for not closing the offers. The entitled parent freaks out and tries to guilt trip me into trading, saying it's his son's favourite Pokemon and he hoped he'd get it for his birthday and stuff. You know, the usual entitled parent stuff. At this point, he hasn't been rude to me, so I assumed he was just a parent, trying to please his child. So I agreed to hear his offers, and sadly he has nothing I'm interested in. So I wish him good luck and I leave the chat room. Big mistake. The entitled parent opens a private chat with me demanding the Pokemon. He said, and I quote, "You didn't close the post, so you have to accept my offer, otherwise you'd be violating the rules of your post." I once again state that if he cannot make an offer to me, not to contact me. He tells me I'm a freaking scammer and that he'll get the Pokemon company to arrest me for trading under false pretenses because his brother works at Nintendo. Yeah, this man seriously just pulled a version of "my uncle works at Nintendo." I tell the dude to F off if he can't make an offer. He said that he'll have my save files deleted and that they will give him all my Pokemon, and asked if I got my kicks from ruining the lives of little kids. To which I responded I did, so he said that the police would be here in an hour to confiscate my games. I just blocked him and I'm now waiting for police to arrive. I considered that the first guy might have used an alternate account to attempt to trade with me, but I doubt it since they just seem way too different. Yeah, with the price of Pokemon right now just skyrocketing, the last thing you want to do as a trader or a seller is get pushed into a deal that you're not completely comfortable with, especially in this situation when you've already done the trade, like you have nothing else to trade, the trade has been done. I don't understand this entitled parent, but yeah, maybe you're right, maybe it was the same person, but that was a big switch in personality as you say at the end, so I doubt it. I kind of think this was just an entitled parent that maybe had forgotten about his son's birthday, was like, oh no, I really need to get something immediately, oh give me this Pokemon trade now, come on. Anyway, any of you guys watching right now that do have some very old Pokemon, I must say, I'm very jealous, but fair play to you for keeping it for all these years. Now moving on to our second story, entitled mother became enraged because our food program was cancelled. That food program was the charity of a teacher who passed away. For some context, this woman has been a problem parent at the centre for as long as her 5-year-old child, Molly, has been here. The girl started as an infant in our baby room, so that's 5 years of this woman. This entitled mum is not a good person. She would not pack lunches for her daughter, she would often send her then 13-year-old to bring Molly into the daycare because she didn't want to, and at least 3 times a week, teachers had to give the child a bath in the sink, and when she was too big for that, a sponge bath because she smelled so bad. Yes, we called CPS and I'm not sure what came of that, but I know Molly is still in her custody. It was awful, but there was one saving grace this girl could look to: Jenny. Jenny was the sweetest woman you would ever meet. She worked in one of the preschool classrooms, but her heart was so big and open that she extended her kindness to all children. Every time Molly came in without a lunch, Jenny would make sure she had food, even if it meant driving to the local Walmart or country fair to get her a sandwich. Eventually, Jenny began to bring in food personally for Molly because Molly's entitled mum never packed her lunch. Now, Jenny died suddenly and unexpectedly in 2019. She was young, just barely over 30. The entitled mum kept bringing Molly in without lunches, and up until COVID hit, it was an ongoing battle that finally came to a head yesterday. So yesterday, Molly came in at 10:30, which was too late for breakfast. In the preschool classrooms, we keep them on a schedule, and breakfast ends at 8:30, while they get a snack at 10. Molly had a snack, and lunch started at noon. When the teacher opened her lunchbox to prep her food at lunch, she noticed there was breakfast in there. She decided, politely, to remind Molly's mother that breakfast ends at 8:30, and if she was planning to bring her in later in general, to please have her eat before she comes in, because things are already in full swing in the classroom. This was done via a childcare app that we use to communicate with parents. Well, the entitled mum did not like that and called the centre screaming at our assistant director. This lasted for 10 minutes and the pregnant assistant director came into my room, the infant room, angry about all of this. She cooled down and went back to her office. The offices are right next to my room, so I was being somewhat nosy and listening in. The entitled mum came to pick Molly up, effectively pulling her from the centre. There, she got to shouting at the assistant director. "Wouldn't you be upset if they weren't feeding your baby? Wouldn't you want justice and people held accountable?" That's when the director stepped in and told the assistant to check on the other classrooms. Translation, you don't have to fricking listen to this, I'll handle it. The director then followed up with, "Personally, I would make sure that my child ate breakfast before bringing her in." The assistant director left at that point. The entitled mum was throwing a fit about how she didn't like the teachers here, how she thought Tiana, the preschool teacher for the 4 to 5-year-olds, was a raging female dog, and how she didn't like her since the beginning, and how a lot of parents pulled their kids because of her. Thing is, she was confusing Tiana with Tessa, the younger preschool teacher for the 3 and 4-year-olds. Tessa is admittedly a strict woman, but her strictness was countered with kindness and positive reinforcement. The entitled mum is so out of touch with her daughter's providers that she never even got to meet Tiana. Finally, she delivered the zinger everyone knew was coming, but hoped she had enough class to refrain from saying, "You stopped doing the food program when Jenny died. I think you were just too selfish and cheap to honour her memory in continuing it." Wow. To which the director finally stood up and said, Jenny was the food program. She bought that food for Molly out of her own pocket with her money that she earned caring for the children there. The reason this so-called food program stopped was because Jenny died. To which the entitled mum doubled down and said, "Well, why wouldn't you continue to buy food for the children in her honour?" "Because we do not have the budget to allocate funds for a food program. And in addition, in our handbook it states we are only to provide snacks. We would need a whole other set of clearances and regulations to start serving food here like a cafeteria." "But you did it when Jenny was here." The argument continued back and forth like that, until finally the director basically said that this was the second outburst that the entitled mum had, and that they could no longer accept Molly at the centre with this continued behaviour. The entitled mum, needing to get the last word in, finished with, "Fine, I don't want to send my child to a place that starves her." Then she left with Molly. My heart breaks for the child, but there's not much else to do. I just can't believe how classless you have to be in one argument to bring up a beloved, saintly person like Jenny, and then basically insinuate that our wonderful assistant director was going to be a bad mother, while acting like we are still somehow the buttholes for cancelling our non-existent food program. Well, there you go, OP, thank you for that. You've literally just summed up everything I was about to say in the last paragraph. All I can add on top of that is, yeah, what a horrible, horrible woman. I just reckon, guys, that this woman completely understands that she is not a good mother, and is, extremely sad about that in her heart of hearts, but because she knows that she is such a bad mother, she wants to try and make excuses for that, and therefore takes out her anger or her guilt perhaps that she has about herself on other kind people like the people that you've seen throughout this entire story, including OP and of course Jenny. So yeah, I think that is the main reason, guys, that she is being so horrible. Let me know down below if you agree with that or not. Just something I thought about. Now moving on to our third story. My entitled aunt demanded I should give my $5,000 Lego Technic collection to her son because I'm too old to own Lego. Reading this subreddit has reminded me that I have encountered an entitled parent, and I figured I should tell you my story. So firstly, a little bit of info before the story. My parents introduced me to Lego when I was 5 years old. It was a Lego Technic, and I successfully built it the first time. My interest in Lego Technic increased ever since, and I started doing the harder Lego sets and really enjoyed them. In 2018, my grandmother passed away, and my family held a meeting with our extended family at our house. The house was packed since our home is not that huge. Then my entitled aunt and her son and husband came to ours. Now everyone in my family disliked her very much because she never respects her own parents and has a disgusting attitude. Everyone avoided her, but my mum approached her. My mum was confused because she didn't send her an invitation. My mum asked her why she was there, and she answered, "I came here for the inheritance." The room went silent, and my mum was in shock for her reasoning of why she came. Enter her entitled son. He was 7 years old and went to the living room playing with the other kids. I locked my room because he entered my room once and dropped some of my Legos to the ground, but I built it back eventually. I did not trust the entitled son to come into my room, as these Legos took me days to build a single Lego set, and I don't want to get them smashed on the ground. At this point, shouting has started in the living room between my entitled aunt and my uncle because she said, "I deserve to claim all the inheritance and only me." This turned into a fight between the siblings, and I was scared and not used to hearing someone shouting, so I went to my room to take a break. Now, as I was heading to my room, the entitled son followed me, and I didn't even notice this at all until I reached my door. He tried to sneak into my room, but I was able to stop him. He threw a fit and he asked me why I was not letting him in. I told him my reasoning and he answered back, "It was just an accident." This isn't actually the first time he's dropped my Legos by accident. Hearing those words made my blood boil, and I said, "For the last time, you will not be entering my room." His face was filled with anger and he went back to his mum. Now, I thought that was going to be the end of it, but oh boy, was I wrong. I heard a knock on the door, and guess who it is? Of course, my entitled aunt. She looked annoyed at me, and the following conversation then happened. "Why are you not letting my son enter your room?" He's dropped my Legos a lot of times and I don't trust him in my room. "Oh, come on, it was just an accident. Go on, son, get in." The audacity of my entitled aunt is unbelievable. I'd already told her no multiple times and she went back to the living room anyway. "Look, Legos! Can you give them to me, OP?" her entitled son said. "What the heck? No, I spent a lot of money on buying this and it took me days to build this Lego and years to collect it. I do not trust you with my Legos because I know you are not going to take good care of them." At this point, the entitled son was angry and was about to throw a fit. He went to his mum again and I cannot believe what he told her. His mum then came back up to me and said, "OP, you said you were going to give your Legos to my son." "What? No, everything your son told you is a complete lie. Just give him all your Legos. Besides, you are too old to own any anyway." "No, I will not. This is your warning, EA." "Ugh, get out of my way." She then proceeded to push me away really hard to the wall. My back was in pain and I saw my entitled aunt and her entitled son trying to grab the bigger Lego on my shelf. I ran over to them and took back my Legos safely away from them. My entitled aunt began to shout at me, telling me how stupid I am, plus more insults from her. Apparently, her shouting could be heard from the living room and my mum and uncle came in to check. I was about to tell them what happened, but my entitled aunt cut me off. She told her story to them, but my mum knew it was a lie. My mum knew that I would never give away my Lego sets and told my entitled aunt to get out of the house. This made her so mad that she decided to pull my shelf full of Legos to the ground. I was in shock, but my uncle quickly grabbed the shelf and held it to prevent the entitled aunt from pulling it. My uncle is a huge and tall guy with a long beard, and he warned my entitled aunt to get out of the house and never come back. My aunt was obviously mad, and she pulled her entitled son's arms to the exit. I thanked my uncle for helping me, and the same day he bought me a new Lego set, and I was so happy. To this day, everyone has cut contact with my entitled aunt, and we heard her husband divorced her. Her husband has a really good paying job, and he had had enough of the BS with my entitled aunt. The last we heard, she is now living in a small apartment. I guess quite similar to Pokémon right now, a lot of Lego from back in the day is now worth a lot of money if you've kept it all this time and it's in pristine condition. So yeah, I totally understand how if you are a Lego collector, your stuff can probably be worth a few thousand like this guy right here. And if someone comes into your room like the entitled son here, or the entitled aunt to be fair, and doesn't understand not only the value of the products but also the time and effort that you've spent into building them across a number of years, then yeah, I can imagine that being horribly anxious seeing what they're going to do, and just when they try and pick them up and stuff, you're just like, no, get out of here, get my uncle in, let's sort these people out once and for all. This story actually reminds me of one of my other entitled parent stories from back in the day now. I don't even know how long ago it was. It's up here. It's about someone else stealing Lego, and yeah, just horrible stories. Why would you do it, guys? Why? Now moving on to our fourth story. Daughter was 6 hours late to interview. Her entitled mum yells at me for making her cry. Hello everyone, long time creeper on here. Never thought I'd run into an entitled mum, but here we are. So, I'm a 20-year-old female. I am a dog groomer. I've been one for 4, almost 5 years. The big thing in dog grooming is reputation, quality, and time management. Yesterday, we were expecting a girl to come in at 10 to try out as a dog groomer. She was promising. 23 or 25 years old, worked as a dog groomer at other places, but she didn't show until 4:30. No call, no nothing. She apparently had a hair appointment and friends from out of town came in, so they got their nails done. She asked if she could groom now. I said, no, I don't think so. When she pressed, I said, and I might be a jerk for saying this, we don't want or need you. There's no need to reschedule your tryouts. I went back to get my last 2 dogs done. Apparently, she cried and I was starting to feel bad. Now, entitled mum time. Her mum came in this morning, demanding we give her a second chance. I told her, your daughter was 6.5 hours late. That's not something that works in dog grooming. The entitled mum replied, she was with friends. I think someone your age would understand that. Not when there's a job interview. She didn't call or anything. At this point, I was ticked and over it. I have 5 dogs to get done. But she said, well, there was no reason to make her cry. I said I disagree and I got back to work. Apparently, she stayed up there and demanded we give her another shot. As head dog groomer, I said, that's not gonna happen. She left eventually, saying her daughter was too good for us. Oh, come on, if you are 6.5 hours late for an interview, that is obviously an immediate no. You're not getting this job, you can't be trusted. You're 6.5 hours late to work. Surely at an interview, by the way, that is gonna be the best representation of yourself. You're gonna try and make yourself look as good as possible. So what I'm saying is, if you're 6.5 hours late at interview, then think how late she's gonna be in the day-to-day job. I can't even believe it. Now for our 5th and final story. My grandma started nasty rumours about me in junior high. My grandma is an interesting individual. One may place her in the Karen category. She's from a small town where you are either very well off and waspy, or you smoke crack and live in an old school made into an apartment building. She's on the waspy side, knows everything and everyone, always will find something about you to nitpick at. Fun times. The best times was 8th grade. She was a math teacher in my school for junior high. Oh boy, was that a dandy time. Because I was her granddaughter, that put a huge target on me. Every day she would watch me like a hawk and wait for the split second I would look away, then shouts, "Granddaughter, pay attention, don't make me tell your mother you're goofing off in my class." And the whole class would giggle. She would grin and her ego would inflate like swim shorts when you first walk into the water. One time I accidentally wore slippers to school, and for the rest of the year she would bring it up, like, "Can you not remember the equation like you couldn't remember your shoes?" Cue malicious grins and laughter. But the straw that broke the camel's back was when I got a boyfriend. Bit of a backstory here, I was held back in kindergarten. So, I'm a year older than everyone in my 8th grade class. I was dating a boy in 10th grade, but he skipped ahead a grade, so he is actually a year younger than his 10th grade class. This made our age difference to be only about a year apart. However, from an outside perspective, when you first hear a 10th grade boy is dating an 8th grade girl, I'm sure your first reaction would be like, ooh. And boy, did my grandma eat that up like it was her very last meal. Anytime we would visit, she would make side comments like, "We know granddaughter prefers older men, right?" Or, "If it was my child, I certainly wouldn't approve, but I guess times are a little different." It was annoying, but it wasn't interfering with my life. That is, until she started to gossip about me to other teachers. She would tell them that I was sneaking around with an older boy. I was probably experimenting with things not meant for my age. That I was going into teachers' lounges and bathrooms with him. She also heavily implied that my parents were against all of this. For context, my parents know how old we both were and actually aren't crazy. Also, my boyfriend was the quietest, nerdiest kid in his grade. It took us both 2 weeks of holding hands before we even kissed, so none of this was true. But that didn't stop the rumours. During lunch, I get asked by girls if it was true that I'd done certain sexual things. If I was in class and I would ask a teacher to use the restroom, they would refuse. And if they did let me go, they would interrogate me for several minutes first to make sure I wasn't sneaking off to do it with my older boyfriend. Before any of this, I was literally a fly on the wall and I was completely fine with that. But now I was miserable and felt completely helpless. After coming home crying for who knows how many days in a row, my mum got fed up. I remember her screaming, "That's it," grabbing her keys and storming out the door. When she returned, she said that grandma wouldn't be bothering me anymore. Once I got older, she told me a brief summary of what happened. Basically, my mum arrived and approached her calmly, explained to her that I was her child and she has control of the situation. She even explained the age difference. After asking her politely to back off and stop telling lies to her co-workers, my teachers, grandma scoffed and said, "You don't know what she could be doing behind closed doors. I'm just keeping an eye out for her." This set my mum off. She told me that she started yelling at my grandma about her female dog shaming her own granddaughter and how miserable I was. She said she has no right to say or do any of this and what she was doing was cruel and inappropriate. My grandma's response? "How dare you enter my home and accuse me of this? Get out of my house." So my mum left. The next day, my grandma avoided eye contact with me. She didn't even try to call on me for answers or point out what kind of clothes I was wearing. She just averted her gaze and did her job. Finally. Rumours continued just for a little bit, but then people caught on that it really wasn't as scandalous as the rumours portrayed, and we were finally left alone. How did this all end? Like you would expect, grandma acts like it never happened, never brings it up, avoids the conversations if they are around the time when she taught me. It's irritating, but at the same time, it's expected. Now that I'm an adult and we are all aware of her silly ways, we can just smile and nod until we go home, where we then rant about how mean she was during dinner. I have so many more Karen-like stories involving her if anyone is interested. Yeah, 100% I want to hear more about this entitled grandma. Let's be honest, in school, she was literally bullying OP. It doesn't matter that they're related, she was literally picking on her and making her feel horrible, you know. She was going home crying every day after school because of what her grandma was saying about her, and that is such a horrible thing to do. Speaking about her own granddaughter behind her back to other teachers who also teach her, and then that rumour is obviously going to get spread around the entire school, as this grandma knows, going through to the students who then are not going to be particularly nice to OP. What a horrible person. I mean, why would you do this? I don't know. But yeah, maybe she just is a not very nice person in general and she thought it was funny. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's it. Anyway, guys, that is going to do it for this Entitled Parents video. I really hope you have loved it, because if you haven't, then why are you still watching, really? That's my question. If you do want more right away, then click on this video right here. It's an absolute cracker from a few days ago. Also, if you are new to my channel, this is your first time here, well, hit the button here, subscribe, because I post videos like this every single day. You know what? They're top quality, like this one. So yeah, if you are new, hit the button, notifications on, and I will see you tomorrow with a brand new upload.